The first trailer for the upcoming threequel in the Sonic movie franchise just released, and man, it's crazy how far these movies have come. We went from Sonic looking like this to having Shadow breaking Knuckles' wrist. This is insane. And while it may seem that the Sonic the Hedgehog movies started with the first theatrical release in 2020, Sonic movies have been around for longer than you think. The Sonic OVA was released in 1996 and was a two-part animated Sonic film that took inspiration from Sonic CD. And man, I do have a soft spot for this movie. Many things don't hold up at all that much today, but back then, I bet this was pretty cool. But surprisingly, there were no other Sonic movies until the first Paramount film dropped in 2020. It's weird because Sonic was so huge back in the 2000s, and even the 2010s for a little while. I just feel like there had to have been some kind of plan to bring Sonic to the big screen. And as it turns out, there are multiple canceled Sonic movies that never saw the light of day. It turns out that the movie franchise we've all grown to love has been in the works forever now. Starting off, we have Sonic Wonders of the World. This was the first effort to bring Sonic to movie theaters, and it didn't really go well. It was supposed to be written by Richard Jeffries and co-produced by MGM, Paramount, Sega, and Trilogy Entertainment Group. However, many things went wrong during the production of the film, with MGM eventually dropping out of the project due to creative differences. They couldn't decide on many things that were going to be in the film, like if Robotnik was going to be the main villain. I know, right? A lot of them didn't want Robotnik to be the villain. So after MGM left, DreamWorks was requested to take on the project, but Sega didn't want to give them the full rights to the IP, so that didn't work out. So yeah, this movie was just not working out in the slightest, so they just scrapped it altogether. There was considerable progress made on the film, however. A very early film treatment was uncovered a couple of years ago. Back in March of 2022, Jacob Berkeley, who is currently working on the book The Complete History of Sonic SatAM, was sent an unfinished film treatment of Wonders of the World written by Richard Jeffries. The top of this doc even shows an early logo for the film. It is a very long read, so I'll leave links down below for you to read it yourself, but just to summarize, the film is going to follow 12-year-old Josh Pinsky, who, suffering from his parents' divorce, uses this wacky invention to write an essay for him. After that, he pops in a copy of Sonic Extreme on the Sega Saturn, and when he starts playing that game, Sonic gets a mind of his own and just jumps out of the TV screen. So now Sonic is trying to navigate the real world to find the Chaos Emeralds and find Eggman. And eventually, when trying to lure Eggman back into Sonic Extreme, Josh gets sucked into the game world himself, and then after Sonic and Josh both fight Eggman, Josh gets sent back to the real world and everything is all cool. Just reading this thing is like a damn fever dream. I mean, it doesn't help that Sonic Extreme got canceled and this whole movie seems to be one giant advertisement for the game, but anyway, another treatment was listed on eBay back in 2023, and the winner of the auction was a guy named Will, who ran a Twitch account called The Game Show Game, who earlier this year, along with Cybershell, read through the whole thing, and it's just an earlier version of the one that was uncovered through the Sonic SatAM thing, as the one auctioned off on eBay was just simply titled Sonic the Movie instead of Wonders of the World. Anyway, I can see why this thing was scrapped. It seemed interesting, but at the same time, it also seemed very meta, if you get what I mean. Like, this movie didn't take place in Sonic's world, but rather it was just a Jumanji type thing where the main character gets trapped in the Sonic game. I mean, it would have been great to market Sonic Extreme because I can only imagine how many little kids would have bought that game because they thought Sonic would jump out of the TV screen. But yeah, we don't know anything else about this movie. No screenplay, no script, none of that. And I don't know if we'll ever get those things, assuming they even exist. But for now, this movie is a partial piece of lost media. Before we move on to the next one, I wanted to briefly talk about the Sonic OVA, which I touched on a little bit at the beginning of the video. Apparently, this movie was going to be a lot different at one point and much longer. The release version only clocked in at around an hour, and again, it was split into two parts. However, the movie was supposed to be much longer, clocking in at around 2 hours, but was cut down due to time constraints basically. And honestly, yeah, I can kinda see it. The pacing in OVA is all over the place, especially in the second half of the film. So yeah, it makes perfect sense that it was once supposed to be a longer film. Anyway, moving on to Sonic Armageddon. So there was a movie that was pitched to be a continuation of Sonic SatAM, which was canceled after only 2 seasons. So the late Ben Hurst, who was one of the writers for Sonic SatAM, pitched the idea to a Sega executive just to try to get something going. But with no luck, Hurst instead got a call from Ken Penders, lead writer for the Sonic Archie comics. But Penders was not interested in Hurst's idea, which led to Penders making his own pitch in 2003, and that was the pitch for Sonic Armageddon. It got nowhere though, due to just a general lack of interest in the project from executives. If given the green light, however, it was rumored that DreamWorks was going to produce the film, but Penders has come out and stated that rumor was not true. However, even though it was canned very early on, there are a few pieces of concept art that were released, released, which I'll show on screen right now. And if you ask me, these look very weird, but I mean, yeah, it looks like it could have been a conclusion to Sonic Sat AM. There was also a video that Pender showed Sega executives, and it's just,
Uncle Chuck. Whoa. This is way past cool.
what the was that? This is just, I don't even know what to say. It just looks bad. It is very obvious why this thing was canceled, because I just don't see how this thing could have ever been greenlit, especially after this absolute abomination of a video was shown to Sega executives. Damn, Penders never fails to disappoint, doesn't he? Look, I'm all for a conclusion to Sonic Sat AM, but this was not the way to do it. And thankfully today we have projects ran by fans, like the fan-funded Sat AM Season 3 pilot run by Team Season 3. If this thing ever gets finished, I can almost guarantee it will be better than whatever the hell Sonic Armageddon was supposed to be. But at the end of the day, this whole thing is just more laughable than anything, and I highly encourage you to watch the entire video pitch, which I'll also leave down in the description, because it is pure comedy. Anyway, moving on to the Sonic and Sony Pictures film. So the first Sonic Paramount film was in the works for a very long time, almost as early as 2013 when it was originally supposed to be worked on by Sony Pictures instead. In 2014, a bunch of internal Sony emails between two producers leaked, in which they discussed a Sonic the Hedgehog film adaptation. However, from these emails, it was clear that not everyone completely knew what they were doing, as there were multiple, ideas thrown around here. But eventually, they settled on something that looked identical to the plot of the movie we have now. For a while there, the project was actually looking pretty solid, as they got Tim Miller, the director of Deadpool, on the project, and there were also talks of a potential PG-13 rating. However, Sony Pictures eventually did a complete internal reshuffle, which eventually caused all of the work they had on Sonic to fall into the hands of Paramount. Now, it is not entirely known how much of the original Sonic movie was originally completed by Sony, but it's very heavily rumored that they played a certain role in the original design for Sonic. Ah yes, we definitely gotta talk about the original version of Sonic 1 that was scrapped, because Sonic looked hideous. Yeah, so back in December of 2018, we got this poster, and everyone went into full panic mode because Sonic just looked so weird. And then in April of 2019, we got the first trailer of the movie, which got insane amounts of backlash because of Sonic's design, which led Paramount to delay the movie to fix his design. And God bless Tyson Hesse, man, because he pretty much saved the damn franchise with the new design. But let me ask you this, would Sony have done the same thing? I really don't know. There are still really early remnants from the Sony version of the movie, however. It was heavily rumored that the Lost Sonic 1 CinemaCon trailer used a logo that was made by Sony, and I couldn't find a source on this, but apparently there was also a tweet that revealed Russian dub testing for the Sony version of the movie. And dude, just looking at this screenshot makes me want to vomit. Like, this just looks so bad. So regardless if this is real or not, I think the Sonic movies are in great hands with Paramount. Even though I wasn't a huge fan of the first film, it could have been so much worse, and we wouldn't have gotten Sonic Movie 2 and Sonic Movie 3 if the redesign didn't happen. So at the end of the day, I'm thankful that Sony dropped the movie. But yeah guys, those were the canceled Sonic films. It's really interesting learning that there were so many attempts at making a Sonic movie before Paramount was successful, but I can see why all of these were scrapped, because admittedly, all of them seemed pretty awful. But let me know what you all think about these in the comments down below, and are you excited for Sonic Movie 3? Personally, I'm very hyped for it, and I think it looks awesome, but I would love to hear your thoughts as well. But thank you all so much for watching, and I'll see you all later. Goodbye.